When I was 14 years old, I experienced isolation from my family and from other women in my life. I came to a crossroads where I recognized that I was completely on my own, and I felt so vulnerable. And maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you can look back at your life and see times when you realized that you were left alone as a woman and you needed a woman just ahead of you in life to connect with. I wrote the book, A Friend in Me, building trust with the next generation of women from my own life's story. But I also have realized in the past recent years that a lot of articles and books are saying that the generations are leaving the faith. And that struck a chord with me. I talked to several young women through my life and through my interviews. I was a teaching professor, and I have spoken at women's conferences, and I've consulted with my business clients, and I've also raised 3 daughters of my own. And I have seen where the gap between the generations has widened, and we're having an emotional and spiritual damaging effect on the generation that is behind us in the faith. And that's why I wrote this book. I have seen where the way women live their lives says to the generation behind us, I'm here for you or I'm not. And I didn't write this book so that we could have one more layer of guilt of our lives as Christian women. But I did write it to make us aware that the way we are living out our faith matters. The choices that we're making day in and day out with the women who are closest to us matters. The way that we say yes to Jesus with our responsibilities and our vocation and our friendships matters. The church today longs to connect with the next generation. I know they do. But they wonder sometimes, how do we do this? How do we reach the generation behind us? And I believe that through this book, A Friend in Me, we can find some ways. We can evaluate our lives to see the message that we're sending in a rapidly changing culture. One researcher in particular investigated more than 200 emerging adults, and they looked at the difficulties that these young people were facing. And during the research, they found major problems that the young people said, this is really affecting my faith. But what was interesting is that in the research, they wondered, would it make a difference if these young people were closer to the adults in their lives? Would it make a difference with these issues that they were facing? And they found that it would make a difference. In fact, they said that those of us who are ahead in the faith, we sometimes are adding to that pain and confusion when we don't even realize we're doing it. And I found that to be true for myself. My family fell apart when I was young. In fact, my mom left our family when I was 14. And that left me thinking that I was on my own and thinking I had to figure things out for my own, that I actually developed almost a spiritual independence because I was highly involved in my church, I was involved in my community, and I went to a Christian school. But that was a lie to think that I was on my own. In fact, in my mid-20s, I faced another tragedy where, again, I found I was significantly left on my own. And it was when certain women stepped into the corners of my life. They offered me comfort. They offered me compassion. They offered me genuine friendship. And by the way they were living their lives, told me that I could trust them and that I had a friend in them. And that's the goal of my book. That's why I wrote this, because what the generation behind us longs for is trust. And you can do that with the way you live your life. In fact, through this 10-week video series, I believe that you will have such reward as you go through the chapters and as you go through the videos. The main purpose of the book is to introduce you to 5 life-giving patterns that you can internalize and practice with the young women in your lives. They are suffering, comfort, compassion, forgiveness, understanding. You will learn through these videos how you can very practically and simply apply these profound practices and patterns to your life. You may even find that God will open your eyes to the young women who are already in your lives and you just didn't realize how much they wanted and needed that connection from you. I guarantee that as you go through this book, you will find that you are building trust with some key women who will in turn find you to be exactly what they needed to hear from God, to transform their faith, to redirect their lives and ministries as well. And I believe that as you go through this series, that you will gain a confidence and a joy, and it will take away doubt as the Holy Spirit leads you to reach out to the women all around you, whether they're in your workplace, in your church, in your family, and in your neighborhoods. And for those of you who are younger, who are longing for that, this is for you too. Because I know that as you initiate and as you stay open to receive, God is going to give to you exactly what you need. He knows the type of friend you need, and He has that planned out. So I'm excited for you to join me in this 10-week series and this video series. I believe that as you and I take the opportunities that God places before us, that we will say to the women behind us and the women ahead of us, you have a friend in me.